I will start the recording. After that, we will start.
If everybody joins, may I start it? Good morning, participants from different parts of the India. And today the topic is climate resilient livestock and poultry management to ensure food and nutritional security. So I think the participants are from different disciplines. Some maybe from the veterinary science, some maybe from the agriculture science. So accordingly, we prepared the slides. It's a very easy to understand what the climate resilient is a big topic, how the different livestock are coping with it, and how to we can do so that we can provide them some relief from this the change of the climate. So climate resilience means ability of a system to deal with stresses and disturbances while retaining the same basic structure and ways of functioning, the capacity of self-organization, capacity to learn, adapt to change, and resilience is therefore about managing changes, and adaptations should contribute to climate resilient development, that is adaptation that can stand to face the current future climate risks. And the climate resilient practices is the incorporation of adaptation, mitigation, and other practices in agriculture and veterinary sciences, which increases the capacity of a system to respond to various climate resilient disturbances by resisting damage and recovery quickly. So here we will talk about the climate resilience and climate resilient practices so that we can provide the comfortable environment to the livestock. Here in different parts of our India, the different livestock, they are the performance of livestock during the change of the environment. We are daily, we are in practice, and we just feeling that there is uncomfortable environment are there. So for ourselves, there is no such much problem, but for livestock, even increase in the environmental temperature 1 or 2 degree, use loss are there. Along with this, so many diseases, outbreak of diseases, and the uncomfortable environment are there for the livestock. So we are here through this lecture, we try to uh, provide how can we cope with this uncomfortable environment, how can we provide the this c- comfortable things to the livestock. So climate change in present scenario is the CO2 level in the air is increasing. It is increasing day by day. Global temperature is increasing. The main issue is that we are facing the high environmental temperature, and it affects to the especially to the crossbreeds animal, exotic animals, and other livestock, and to the this high temperature increasing environment. And 16 out of 17 warmest year on record occurring since 2001, and 23 countries reported major drought globally. Not only the uncomfortable environment ability to the livestock, but it also affect the livestock and agriculture sector in various ways, like drought, like this flood, like so many disasters are there, and all are these responsible for this the climate change, the problem we are facing. So these type of situations are there in different parts of the world, different parts in India. There is the scarcity of the water. There is scarcity of this fodder crops, and the floods are there. The huge loss of lives of the livestock as well as human being. So how can we provide the comfortable environment to the livestock in this scenario? So in India, if we talk about the scenario of the climate change, India was among the top three most disaster hit countries in 2016, and economic damages worth rupees 3.3 billion. Huge economic losses and huge because of the low productivity, because of the outbreak of various diseases, because of the uh, high mortality among the livestock. So the global climate risk index had ranked India seventh in the list of most affected countries in terms of exposure and vulnerability of climate risk event. And the surface air temperature over India has risen about zero point 0.7 degree during 1901 to 2018, which is accompanied by increase in atmospheric moisture content. And the main temperature across India in 2021 average 21.43, ranking as the third highest record. So average temperature is also increasing, and we know that livestock is very much vulnerable with the increase in the environmental temperature. And India faces elevated risk of experiencing increased drought condition ranging from 5% to 20% by the close of this country century. So, because of this drought conditions in this scenario, the loss of this the fodder ability, loss of the byproduct ability to the livestock are there. And India is home of nearly 17.7% of world population and responsible for 6.8% of world carbon emission, and placing it fifth in terms of geopolitical risk ranking. So, because of the very high population, India is also responsible for this the climate change conditions in the world also, because highest livestock population, and we know livestock is one of the important factor that affecting the this the climate change and global warming. So you just see the climate change impact in India. The warmer seasons average rise is 2 degrees Celsius predicted, and 1 to 4 degrees Celsius in extreme ranges, increased in annual precipitation and cyclonic disturbances, lower frequency, increased intensity, increased risk of a storm and surges. So many things are there. And you just see rise of sea level 1.3 every year. At this rate, the sea level is increasing, and fresh water supply problem is also there. High variability predicted in water yield. We are also suffering from the scarcity of water, especially during the summer season, and huge scarcity of water even for the human being. So, what can we do for this the livestock? So, just see the Thar deserts, Great Himalayas, Indo-Gangetic plains. So in these different regions, the different types of disasters are being observed because of this, and everything is related with this the climate change and this the scenario. So disturbances of livestock, distribution of livestock. If we talk about the livestock, so on the basis of agroclimatic zones, Indian agroclimatic zones, we distributed the uh, different, just to see, regions in India. 15 categories are being prepared on the basis of agroclimatic zones. And according to these agroclimatic zones, different livestocks are there, because livestock uh, are mainly they survive on the basis of this the ability of the environmental condition, and accordingly as per the agroclimatic zones, the population of livestock are there in different zones, and these different agroclimatic zones also provides the different types of food to the livestock. So accordingly, livestock survives on the basis of these agroclimatic zones. So just you see, the eastern Himalayas, mainly cattle, goat, pigs are there. Lower Gangetic plains, cattle, goats are there. But in some eastern plain and hills region, cattle are there. Sheep and goats in the central plateau hills. In the hilly region, some goats are there. So different types of, and the concentration of different types of livestock are there in different agroclimatic zones. So it is because of this the uh, different types of environment. If the livestock is suitable for that environment, they can survive. Otherwise, they shifted to the other agroclimatic zones. You just see 15 agroclimatic zones in Indian scenario. And effect of livestock on economy. Livestock is having the huge contribution to the our farmers, and they provide this the livelihood to the farmers. They provide this the economic impact to the our village area, rural areas, and estimated annual loss due to direct thermal stress, especially in the summer season. Very high heat stress are there to the livestock, and also because of this thermal stress, 1.8 million tons of milk is being affected. Milk productivity is going down, and 2% of total milk production of the country is there, and it is the huge loss. Since agriculture makes up roughly 16% of Indian GDP, 4.5 to 9% negative impact on production implies a cost of climate change to be roughly 1.5% of the GDP. Total GDP 1.5% is affected because of this adverse climatic conditions, and India could see economic losses of 8.7% of its GDP by 2100 if fails to respond to climate. So we have to uh, try. We all together we have to try to control this the climate change and this the pollution. So heat waves, fires, floods, and brutal storms. India faces multiple threats from climate change and across sectors: agriculture, fishery, infrastructure, tourism, and more. The cost to the economy could be massive, and without urgent action, India stands a lose 5.2% of its GDP by 2050, and it rises to 1.7% by investing in a low carbon economy now, and India can limit losses to 2% by 2050. So there is huge economic loss is there, and it is mainly due to this the climate change, and because of this problem huge the productivity of livestock is going down, outbreak of disease, high mortality, and also it affects the agriculture sector also. So ability of this order for the livestock is also a problem. And impact of climate change on livestock, if we see, climate change directly affect the health, reproduction, nutrition of the animal, and resulting in poor performance, inferior product quality and quantity, outbreak of novel diseases. Suppose in case of the this cattle, we are number one in the milk production, and because of this climate change and high humidity, high temperature during the summer season, so this mastitis problem is increasing day by day in the crossbred and exotic. Because of this, the problem, and because of the mastitis, huge economic loss, low productivity, and the cattle is of no use for the farmers. So indirect impact is also there of climate change because of the soil fertility is also being affected. Intensified diversification is there, and change in productivity of rangelands, scarcity of water resources. So if all these things, because water is also very important for the livestock, any type of livestock for drinking purpose or cleaning purpose, water requirements are there. And if water quality and quantity is being reduced, then it affects the in all ways, productivity, reproduction, growth, in every way it affects the performance of the livestock. So on livestock, if the climate change is there, the animals become uncomfortable, and it leads to low immunity, low nutritional metabolism, high disease incidence, and low conception, low infertility, decreased productivity, health issue is there, and it causes the negative impact of the climate change. Average forest biodiversity is there, decreased water yield, increased water requirement for the livestock, flood affecting the animal housing, feed scarcity is there, high range of mycotoxin contaminations risk are there, and decreased quality of nutrients, low nutrient availability, altered composition. If we are growing the fodder crops, if the soil fertility is less, if the composition of minerals content of soils is less, then the whatever we are getting the fodder, their nutritional quality is also become poor, and it affects the performance. So directly and indirectly it affects on the livestock. You just see temperature humidity index. Through this THI, we measure the comfortable environment to the livestock. Suppose 72 is the THI is there, then in that case, it is observed to be comfortable. But if humidity is higher, if the temperature is higher, then both affects the performance of the livestock. So if the humidity is less, temperature is little bit higher, then it is comfortable. But if the temperature and humidity is increasing to a particular area, it affects the uh, performance of the livestock. You just see. So this is the here, this is the comfortable zone, no heat stress. But if the temperature is increasing 72 degree and humidity is there 80%, then it will become very dangerous and animals will suffer from the heat stress. Similarly, if the temperature is higher and humidity is 100%, then mortality will be there. So if the temperature humidity is increasing, then high mortality, and disease outbreak is also there. So on all way it affects the performance of the livestock. You just see impact of climate change on livestock production in the growth performance goes down, body weight, feed intake goes down, daily gain goes down, and milk production along with the composition of milk also goes down. Reproductive performances also goes down. Stress expression, conception rate, fertilization, testosterone, all this the consumption rate related to the consumption, so all goes down. Similarly, the disease is increasing. Disease outbreak like the vector-borne disease, filariasis, Rift Valley fever, foot rot. So it combinedly in all the aspect combinedly affect the productivity as well as high mortality to the livestock. So we have to think about this, the climate change production and how to provide the comfortable environment to the livestock and poultry. So what should be the approach for the climate resilience? We should think what is the approach. So first approach is the selection of the livestock which are coping with the environment, uncomfortable environment. So we have to select that animal. If we see different, suppose in our area in different estates, you all the participants are from the different estates, and you can observe that even under the adverse climatic condition, problems is there in the crossbreeds, problem is there in the exotic one, but the problem is very less in our the indigenous animal. So accordingly, we have to select the livestock on the basis of heritability, on the basis of breeding value, and we have to approach for the selection of livestock genomically, that the animals, the livestock, the poultry that are compatible with this high temperature, high humidity, and even if they are performing well in that conditions, then that animal should be selected, and that will be the performance. Yeah. Similarly, the conservation of indigenous germplasm, we have to have the approach for conservation of indigenous germplasm. Presently, what happens? We are going for crossbreeding and crossbreeding for different types of different. So everywhere we are doing the crossbreeding, and because of the crossbreeding, eh, we are getting the more output for some times, but the for long time, if we see, the performance is not so much favorable, and ultimately we should go toward the indigenous germplasm, and we have to conserve the indigenous germplasm in the scenario we are facing. So maintenance of animal diversity is also there. Breeding strategies should be also, we have to prepare the breeding strategies so that we can prepare a good stocks for the that can survive under this climate changes, and that should be climate resilient. So Stress resilient breeds should have the tolerance, avoidance, and escape. And in this stress resilient breeds, we can we can select on the basis of the different heritability and genetic approaches and identification of functional characterization of candidate genes and genetic basis of the selection. So we have to select the animals that are more resistant to the climate change. That type of animal, whether it is the poultry, whether it is the goat, and whether it is the cattle, we have to select that animal. And these type of advantages observed to be more in case of the indigenous animal as compared to the crossbred and exotic one. So we have to think about this. So selection of livestock goal for the selection program for the climate resilience is to develop livestock that can perform in challenging environment while maintaining high levels of productivity and carcass performance, and selecting for a specific traits alternative approach to the target general robustness. And when selection is based on heritability and breeding value, estimates animal breeding stock are observed under the uniformly, and genetic selection can be utilized to increase climate resilience trait which are heritable. And heritability is the very important factors that observed to be uh, observed to be selection of the livestock. So different types of the this physiological things are there, like this respiration rate, body temperature regulation, and rectal temperature, resistance to tuberculosis, somatic cell count, and mastitis resistance. So different types of traits have different heritability. So accordingly, on that basis, if you select the livestock, then it we can have a good stock that are the climate resilient. So genomic approach is also there. Genomic approach means adaptation of animal breeds to environment are typically associated with variation, unrevealing molecular changes and genetic polymorphism associated with the seasonal acclimatization, which will offer new insights into selecting domestic animal for thermal tolerance. Climate resilient traits like thermotolerance and disease resistance appear to be quantitative traits influenced by many regions to the genome, and the approaches are gene mapping, mass, candidate gene approach, dense whole genome SNP chips, and transgenesis. So genetic approach, why this genetic approach we can also prepare, we can also select the animal having more climate resilient. So climate, these candidate genes for resilience are adaptive traits, are quantitative, and nature is influenced by many regions of the genome. Cellular response to stress, response to heat, cellular response to stress, respiration, RNA metabolism. So different function, for different function, we know the different genes are responsible. We have to identify, we have to select, and accordingly, we have to utilize these genes for prepare the animals as a climate resilient. So accordingly, we have prepared. Some scientists, they have worked and prepared the transgenesis, and several transgenesis animals models were developed to study the resilience traits. Like this, you just see the this genetic Kevin Well USDS Agriculture Research Services developed first mastitis resistance cow Annie. As we know, this Annie, that mastitis resistant, because the mastitis is one of the major, very big problem in the crossbred and exotic cattle, especially in the adverse climatic conditions. So, by utilizing the different resistant genes, they developed this mastitis resistance cow Annie. Similarly, the genetically engineered cattle resistant to mad cow disease, easier to keep alive during the feed shortage. Just they developed a sheep that can be survived even during this the shortage or scarcity of the forest. So by identifying the genes to develop this type of animal, so we have to think about this and we have to work in this way to develop these climate resilient livestock. So conservation is one of the very important things, how to conserve our indigenous that are very important. In present scenario, because of the crossbreeding programs, the we are losing our indigenous animals, diluting our indigenous stocks. So, well, indigenous animals need for the conservation because it is well adapted to the agroclimatic zones, poses a structural and functional genomic variation for resilient traits, and maintain consistent production level. So, because of this, the huge productivity is, of course, for indigenous animal productivity is comparatively less as compared to this the exotic or crossbreds. But the under this scenario, we have to conserve our indigenous animals, and we have to have a breeding. And the best method of reducing the impact of a stressor to improve productivity is to breed animals that are productive in their presence and without the need of managerial interventions. And breeding
हेलो
program progeny testing
जी बताइए
is very important. Breeding program with progeny testing. If progeny is performing well, so accordingly you have to select the male and
एक
female.
मिनट सेकंड नहीं तुम्हारा तो फोन तो किसी का चाहो तो नहीं है
If
एक
the
सेकंड
progeny is performing well in the climate adverse climatic conditions, then that sire and dam should be selected, and that the performance of that sire for crossbreeding performance, we have to utilize that particular sires, and different environment and applying index selection to simultaneously improve performance, and selection for heat tolerance like this THI, as we already mm, we see the THI is very important and it affects the performance of the livestock. So heat tolerance animals, we the animals that are more tolerant, so that animal should be utilized for the breeding purpose, and a strategic cross breeding using locally adapted breeds. We have the breeds, if we are doing the cross breeding, so if we utilize our indigenous animals 50% at least for the cross breeding purpose, so that animals that will perform well in this adverse climatic condition, like so many, like Jharsim, we utilize these desi birds along with the broiler strains and layer strains. We Jharsu pig we developed that is utilizing the exotic timber and our desi 50%. So if we utilize for cross breeding purpose, like this the indigenous animal, so performance will be better as compared to the crossbred animal like Jersey, like HF cross. So if we are using these animals that are the crosses of the different animals of different regions, so it is difficult to survive under the adverse climatic conditions. So accordingly, in different states, might we all the participants knows that in different states, different breeding policies are there, and policies are being prepared on the basis of sustainability, how the breeds are being sustained in that particular regions, and accordingly it is recommended that this type of breeds rearing is recommended by the government. So accordingly we have to think, we have to study this breeding policy, and accordingly we can recommend this that for that particular reasons this particular breeds is recommended for the rearing, and if crossbreeding program is being practiced, then that local breed should be involved for the crossbreeding purposes. And government initiative is also being taken to cope with this type of problems, and like this NICRA project is also there, that is continue running in various regions, and the center is the NDRI IVRI, but aim of this NICRA project, NICRA means National Initiative on Climate Resilient Agriculture, is the aim is to enhance the resilience of Indian agriculture to climate change and climate vulnerability through a strategic research and technology demonstration, and the research on adaptation and mitigation covers crop, livestock, fisheries, and natural resources management. So they are doing, I mean, they are following the different parameters, they are selecting the animals, they are identifying the genes, and they are using the different breeding practices, and they are testing that animal in the uh, adverse climatic condition by providing the artificially the adverse climate, and they could see that what is the performance. And one more project is there. National Action Plan on Climate Change was launched later, changed to National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture to increase agricultural productivity. So climate resilient agriculture is also there, and we have to think about this to natural resource management, crop production system, livestock and fisheries, enabling support system. So in natural resource management, we have to think about the soil health and carbon sequestration, rainwater harvesting, recycling, in situ moisture conservation. Like this, we have to think similarly under the crop production system. We have to we have to go with the integrated farming system, resilient cropping system, crop and cultivators, and enabling support system. We have to think about the custom hiring centers, seed and fodder banks, climate services and agro advisors, village climate risk management committees, etc. And the livestock and fisheries, we have to think about the feed and fodder conservation. We have the ability of feed and fodder health and shelters, stress tolerant breeds. So with these aspects, we can think about the climate resilient agriculture. So different breeds in different different breeds are there, and these different breeds are adaptable to that particular environment. If we shift one breed to the other environment, it becomes very difficult to survive. Their productivity will be less, and their performance will also will be less, mortality will be more. So accordingly, diversity of breed is there, and so in different state, different types of breeds are there, and they are adapted to that particular environment. And you just see, according to 2019 livestock census, India had 148.88 million goats. If we talk about the goat, because goat is everywhere, in every household in rural, goats are there, because goats is the also called poor man's cow. So we take the example of goats. Presently, we have 39 breeds. Presently, we are having this on the conservation of the indigenous animal. The our government is also doing good work, and through NVAZR, continuously we are identifying the indigenous germplasm. Previously, we were not know this is the particular breed is there, but now because of this projects of the NVAZR, we are identifying the indigenous livestock from the different regions, and accordingly, previously the you just see, you just think last 10 to 20 years back, the goat breeds was very less, approx 20 breeds was there. But now, because of this, the indigenous breeds increases to 39. So we are identifying our indigenous animals, and whatever we are doing the crossbreeding, indigenous animal is very, very important in each and every aspects if we talk about the climate resilience. So because of the economic this heat stress, economic losses are there in different ways. This loss of the composition of the milk, like fat and protein, then loss of the productivity and growth production, this reproductive performance loss is there. So climate resilience in Indian goat breeds means adaptation to the local environment, and Indian goat breeds have evolved to thrive in various climates, even under the low fodder availability, low water availability, even under the low quality fodders. The our indigenous animals, they easily they survive. So this should not be possible with this crossbred animals. Like, for example, Jamnapari, a tropical breed is there and very well suitable for hot and humid condition in northern India. Northern India, so many participants are from northern India, and you just imagine in the summer how the environment is there, very hot and humid. And Jamnapari is easily they can survive in performances because these breeds adapted to that environment, and that's why this breed is doing very well. Similarly, different types of breeds are there in different regions. They are performing well. If we talk about the goats, they are easily adaptable. If the goats are there in particular environment, they easily adaptable and different types of the characteristic features are there in the goat, like goat color, body size, salivary glands, legs, volume of anatomy and digestive tracts, ears. These are the factors, these are the things that make the animals comfortable with that particular environment and make the animal very resistant to change in the environmental conditions. And stresses, if stresses are there for the goats, in that situation, if stresses are there, then what happens? Acetic acid, different physiological changes are there. Ultimately, feed intake will become less, and hypothalamus is working, appetite become low, and pH of the women is also become low. So these type of things happens just if the environmental temperature, even in the cold stage, even in the heat stage, the problems is there in the physiology of the goats, and it affects, ultimately affects the productivity of the and the performance of the animals. Drought resistance goats are also there. Many Indian goat breeds have developed mechanism to withstand water scarcity, and they have efficient water utilization processes that can submit on limited forage and moisture, making them resilient during period of droughts, which are increasingly common due to climate change. So drought resistance breeds are also there, and boats easily develop mechanism to withstand water scarcity. So gradually adaptations are there in the small animals, and small animals adopting the situation very well. So these goats are also disease resistant, and indigenous goat breeds in India is there, and it exhibit a strong resistance to various diseases, reducing the needs of extensive medical interventions. And this resistance is a result of their long history of coexistence with local pathogens and development of natural immunity. So indigenous breeds they are also very resistant to various diseases because of the climate change. These outbreaks is very common. So in this situation, the the growth breeds they adopt, they are very much adaptations are there with various diseases. So losses is less under this climate. Immune system robustness is also there. Indian goat breeds have built a strong immune system through natural selection. Because of the natural selection in the village, you see, the very easily they are naturally it is being collected. Even in harsh climatic conditions, they survive, and it is called the natural selection. And the goats that is selected that survives, they easily they performance is not normally goes down, and their immunity is very high. So over generations, these goats have exposed to local diseases, leading to development of innate resistance mechanism. This robustness is particularly valuable to areas where access to veterinary care, like the FMD, you just see FMD is very common disease. But in most of the indigenous animal, uh, even after the outbreak of the FMD, uh, the performance or the this occurrence of this disease is very less in the uh, this our indigenous animals. So some Indian goat breeds such as Black Bengal and Osmanabadi shows low susceptibility to disease like TPR and FMD. TPR is very common disease for the goats, and it is low susceptible, resistant to these diseases. and decrease resilience to antibiotic is also there. The inherent disease resistance to Indian livestock reduces the need of antibiotic. Because of their resistance to various diseases, so there is no need of antibiotic. And antibiotic is also, we do not like the use of antibiotic in the meat animals. So these animals are supposed to be very good and sustainable for the livestock farming, and it mitigates the risk of antibiotic resistance and is the associated environmental concern. Similarly, so many goat breeds are there like Jamnapari, Shirohi, Black Bengal, Barbary. These are the all indigenous animals, Osmanabadi, Beetle. So these breeds are all these breeds are the indigenous breed and adaptable to the environment, their the origin places. So feeding management is also we can do even under the scarcity of this the fodder or even in the adverse climatic conditions. The main problem comes is the fooding problem. So even under the upper critical temperature for goat maintenance like 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, balanced ration problem is there, and they do not the feed intake become less. So requirement of balanced ration ability become less. So reducing the dietary forage to grain ratio and feeding fats is also advisable in these climatic conditions. You allow to provide some fats because the feed intake become less under the adverse climatic conditions. So we are providing some uh, good quality fats for the animal for getting the instant energy. Along with this, we are supplementing some soda bicarb, sodium bicarbonate. We are supplementing minerals. We are supplementing for the to make the resistance with the adverse climatic condition, and cold water intake is also very there, very important, beneficial for heat stressed animal. So why making provision of the good quality quantity of the water, why making provision of the good quality of the feed, altering the feed provision to the livestock, we can control, we can minimize the effect of the adverse climatic condition for the livestock. So goat is browser and dry matter requirement is 3 to 5%. So goat is highly flexible foraging behavior in changing conditions. Even they, if the ground grasses is less, then they browse and they can consume the leaves of the trees. As you see the picture, so feeding management for greater sustainability of a small ruminant production system, it is necessary to utilize the available feed resources, whatever the resources are there, whether it is the tree fodder, whether it is the forest crops are there. So different types of things are there, and so that this goat easily they survive. Deworming is also one of the important, because if the animal in a stress, and if worms load is also there, then the stress become doubles. So regular deworming we can uh, provide the comfort to the livestock. Housing, it should be good, and we should maintain the temperature of the houses is between 13 to 27 degrees Celsius. With relative humidity we should limit to 60 to 70%. A very open type of environment is required by the all type of livestock. It should be very open, comfortable, shade should be there, and temperature should not be more than 13 to 27, and relative humidity should be 60 to 70%. So through housing management, we can provide this type of environment. Proper housing management should be there, shade should be there in extreme heat conditions. These foggers should be provided, and tree shades is also we are comfortable for this the goats. Green forest and good cold water requirement is also there for the goats. So extreme heat management practices under the extreme condition, like in summer, temperature is very high, environmental temperature is 35 or 40 degrees Celsius. In that situation, good ventilation is very important. Similarly, raise the house above the ground, because in the ground heat is there. So if we raise the shades from the ground, the ventilation will be more from the ground side, also from the left, right, and this side also. The ventilation should be more than animal should will get the comfortable environment. So use long eaves. Eaves is also for protecting from the rainwater. And summer management use a strong floor, use roofing material that insulates. Roofing material is also very important because of the in the summer situation, the shades roof become very hot and it just spreads the temperature to the inside environment. So proper roofing that insulates, use bamboo, tree grease, earthen tiles, cheap and practical. These things are very important, and that they should not this make the environment warm inside environment. So that material should be utilized, and window can be removed with increased air exchange. We may utilize the exhaust also. And in summer management, use the window that face south and provide opening of short side walls, use hedges. Tree lines is also very important. Whenever shades are there, you must plant a tree that provides shade and cooler environment to the animal shades. And shade is also very important, and feed animals during cooler period of theirs. When the temperature is very high, uncomfortable environment is there, then they do not consume the feed. So better to provide in cooler period, like in the early morning, late evening, when the temperature is comparatively cooler, then provide this the feeding to the animals, then they will consume and performance will be better. Along with this, the decreasing the forest to concentrate ratio, antioxidants in to avoid the summer stress. So to avoid the summer stress, we should provide vitamin C and E to protect the body defense system. It improves the immunity to the livestock, and adequate fresh and cool drinking water is required. It's also necessary to install fans and other cooling system if required. If the uh, uh, use the environmental temperature is very high, then may provide the foggers, may provide the fans also to avoid this summer stress. Similarly, if we talk about the poultry we also we all know we are in third position in the world for total egg production, and total egg production is very high in the 138 billions in 2022-23, and per capita ability of egg is also high, 101 per annum. Still, this the poultry industry is very growing industries, and very increasing is very high pace. So, if we talk about this, the population, the cattle population, the buffalo, sheep, goat, pig, we are having the highest population of the livestock in the world, and the poultry population is also very high. So different breeds in the poultry also, the different indigenous breeds are there, different cross breeds are there. So here also we have to prefer the indigenous poultry words to avoid this the climate stress, and immediate reaction of body in response to heat is there. If the temperature is very high, it affects the cutaneous body temperature, affects the core body temperature, behavioral, they affect pulse rate, respiration rate, ultimately the growth rate and the dry matter intake, then pregnancy, then reproductive potential, they goes down. So you just see even in the poultry, the heat stress versus cold stress, you just see become very uncomfortable in high temperature, and even in low temperature. But for the poultry, this we have to provide the comfortable environment. Just you see 25 to 30 degrees Celsius with 45 to 75% humidity is comfortable for the poultry. 25 to 30 degrees Celsius temperature and 45 to 75% humidity is observed to be comfortable. So we have to try to provide this type of environment, means 25 to 30 degrees Celsius with this limit of the humidity for performance of the poultry. So high temperature is again like this other livestock. High temperature, it affects the growth rate, feed conversion, live weight gain, and all way it affects and reduces the feed consumption by 5%, reduces the immunity of the uh, poultry, reduces the egg cell thickness, and huge loss is being observed. So we have to provide the increased body temperature, increases water intake, decreased feed intake, limit movement, increased panting behavior, causing finger spreading, causes general weakness, increased mortalities. So ultimately, egg productivity goes down and hatchability goes down, fertility goes down. So in all this way, the loss is there. So, cool temperature are the primary triggers for the accumulation of fluid causing abdominal swelling. Ascites is common things when the temperature is goes down. So, for avoiding this, we have to provide this for in case of low temperature, we are providing additional heat to the poultry sheds for providing this the comfortable environment. So, cold stage is also affected, but in our area, cold stress is not so much problem, but heat stress is the major problem. We have to focus on the heat stress in high temperature, hot and humid environments. Low protein diets supplemented with limiting amino acids should be replaced with high protein diet. Here you just see the protein concentration we should increase in the feed content. Glucose must be added in the drinking water. It helps in allowing the influence of heat stress on whole body viscosity and plasma osmolarity, and overhead sprinkler system we have to provide even in the poultry, in other livestock also. Ammonium chloride and potassium chloride should be added in drinking water. In the heat stress animals, we have to add the additional mineral mixture is there. And along with this, the ammonium chloride and potassium chloride should be added to drinking water to is desired to maintain CO2 and blood pH under control. And vitamin E that we already discussed, it is improves the immunity and it reduces the outbreak of the diseases. So vitamin E supplementation should be there, and it is observed to be beneficial for high egg production of a high at high temperature and associated with increase in the feed intake. So mitigation of heat stress is also using the genetic strategies. It is see this type of birds. This is indigenous one. It just is called the naked neck, and this type of behavior is being developed in this poultry, and it is become very helpful. This type of behavior and this type of features are very helpful to avoid the heat stress problems. So first approach should be selecting the genetically thermotolerant bird. Selection of birds in high temperature environment can be helpful for improving the heat adaptation capacity, and thus a specific breeding program for poultry based on marker assisted selection of heat resistant bird need to be undertaken. And in tropical and subtropical region, there is an urgent need of re-evaluate the selection strategies. Ultimately, through the selection, we can form a very good stock that are uh, climate resistant to the climate change. So through nutrition, through housing, through genetics, we can mitigate the problems of this climate change by providing the proper nutrition and proper ventilation, proper housing like ventilated, open housing, less stocking density. Through genetics, by selecting the various on the basis of markers, on the basis of genes, if we are selecting. So in this way, we can provide, we can prepare livestock and poultry that become the climate resistant to the climate change. So backyard farming is also there. We are having in the if we talk about the population of the poultry, so more than 50% of the birds are from the backyard. And the rural backyard contributes 30% of national egg production, 70% of the poultry products consumed in urban and semi-urban areas, and rural consumption is quite low. So private poultry producers are not able to attend the need of major rural consumers. So these type of this under the backyard, mostly these birds are the indigenous. So in these birds, there is no problem of the climate change, and they are performing well even under the harsh climatic conditions. So similarly Jharsim, we developed these words at the Birsa Agriculture University, and these words also have the genes of the indigenous along with the broiler strain, along with the broiler, along with the layer strains, and they performs very well in the backyard condition, and they are dual purpose word. So we utilize this indigenous for the laying purpose and for the meat purpose and for the breeding purpose. That's why this breed performing well in the village condition, even under the harsh climatic condition. Even under the harsh climatic condition, these birds perform well. And this Kamarupa, different places of the scientists, they develop three-way cross this Assam local birds 25, then broiler 25, Dalam red 50. So by utilizing the local genes, they develop this crossbred for more productivity, and they are also adaptable to the climate change, to the environment. The Srinidhi is also the words. Srinidhi, Narmada Nidhi, and Pratap Dhan. These are, you might have heard the name of this type of breed. Vanaraja and Gram Priya, they are also performing. They are all colored words, and they are replacement of the local indigenous words for high productivity. Krishibro, you just see Swarn Dhara, and so genetic approach is also observed to be very important. Genetic approach and local words is utilized for this crossbreeding purpose. And if the crossbreed develops, then that are adaptable to the environment, and their performance is also very well, and they are resistant to various diseases. And nutritional adjustment is also one of the important things. We have to think, even the climate stress, we have to accordingly, we have to provide some protein, high protein, then some vitamins, some minerals additional we have to provide to the livestock and birds to cope with this the adverse climatic condition. And this can be achieved by feeding dietary fat, like we are calling it change in the nutritional quality and quantity. To avoid the heat stress, we have to add in the diet the dietary fat 2 to 6%, and that increases the energy content. Low fiber and low protein diet should be there, and antioxidants should be added. Vitamin A, C, E, selenium, zinc should be added, and feed additives, vitamins, minerals, supplementation should be uh, there, and concentrate mixture like DCP, trillion is required, and nutritional manipulations in the way of feeding management, water management, increasing feed density by adding this the minerals, vitamins content. Amino acid supplementation is also very important. Vitamin supplementation, additional vitamin supplementation should be there. Mineral supplementation should be there, and use of phytochemicals, herbal additives, we all whatever that helps to uh, uh, provide the comfortable with the thermal stress, we may add in the diet of the livestock and the poultry. Housing management, we discussed comfortable housing, proper ventilation, good roof insulation if available, and if required, exhaust fans should be provided. Roof should be painted with white reflection, and the roof overhang should be sufficient. So in this way, we may provide the comfortable, and we know that 13 to 25 degrees Celsius we should provide with the 45 to 70 degree, 70% the humidity should be there. So housing management and feeding management is very important. Just see the photographs, how they are maintaining the, just you see even in the plantation is there, and in harsh climatic condition they provide the insulator shade on the roof. The you just see here they cool down the body temperature of the poultry houses. You just see a sprinkler, tree plantation, grassy lawn, gunny wax on the side of house and sprinkling the water. Avoid overcrowding. Free ventilation should be there. Incorporate evaporate cooling should be there by providing the uh, aspen fiber and corrugated cellulose are two material widely used as cooling pad, and cooling system should be provided. You just see, just in the ventilation, the cooling system is cooling pad is there, and you just see fan fogger. If the very high temperature there, we may use the fogger. They lowers down the climate condition. The fogger system is there. Management intervention already we discussed. Water supply, feeding times is there. Stocking density should be less in the uh, here, uh, high temperature. Stocking density should be less. Water management it's also very important, and ratio of water to feed intake should be 2:1. All the time, water requirement, fresh water, cool water requirement should be there. But 2:1 is the there, but maybe 4:1 water to feed is if temperature is above 27 degrees Celsius, then water requirement for the birds will be more, and for other livestock also. So birds drink 4% more water for every 1 degree increase in the temperature and provide plenty of fresh, clean, cool drinking water should be there. Water pipes should not be exposed to sunlight so that it should not be very hot. And molasses and jaggery energy things should be added to the water. Molasses, jaggery, glucose should be added. And for day-old chick, provide cool water, electrolyte should be there. And on arrival on farm before offering feed and avoid dehydration after transportation. Covers water tank with the gunny bag to avoid the heating, and increase water by 25%, increase frequency of watering, increase nipple drinker, and provide electrolyte addition of 0.25% salt to the drinking water. So these type of things is very important and required. And through this approach, we can inhibit the problem of this the climate change, the high temperature conditions. Thank you. So for if any queries, any questions